Good morning, everyone. I'm really glad to be here today on the topic of self-care and wellness. I want to start with just some movement because we've been sitting for quite a while. And I want to invite you to find yourself comfortable in your chair. So you may have to move forward so that your feet come down to the ground. If you're vertically challenged like myself, you may have to move to the edge of your chair. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your seat on your chair. And we're just going to lift up our hands for a moment if this is available to you. Now, while I do this exercise, I'm going to keep my hands up, and you are welcome to place your hands down if your arms get tired. We're going to start by bringing our thumbs together with our pointing fingers and take a breath in and a slow breath out. Thumbs to the middle fingers, breathing in and a slow breath out. Thumbs to the ring fingers, breathing in and a slow breath out. Thumbs to the baby fingers, breathing in, a slow breath out. Finally, open up the palms, and if they're not already down on your lap, place them down on your lap. Let's take another breath in and hold that breath in. And then let that breath come slowly out. Good. Hopefully that little bit of breathing and movement has already begun to shift you in your body and your mind and in your seat. We're going to do another one, and it's just really simple. We're going to circle our wrists so we can do this while online on Zoom, and it's something you can hide below your screen. So if ever you need some movement in your seat, here's one way. You can circle the other way. Great. And just let that float down. One more that I like to do. So when you're in your seat and you're starting to really kind of feel yourself sinking down into your hips, you can do a little circle. And on this one, we like to feel or notice your sitting bones, just shifting your sitting bones one side to the other side. And then we could also go the other way. Just a little circle, a little shift. Beautiful. Good. And just bring that back into the center. So while I'm continuing on with my talk, feel free to do some finger breathing. Feel free to do some wrist movements, and you don't have to hide it while I'm talking. I'd love to see that. All right. A little bit about me. I was thinking about when I was coming to this talk, what do you know about my history of movement? Because I now consider myself a movement expert, and that expertise comes from experience, and it also comes from injuries, it comes from accidents, and all the recoveries that I've had to do, and now currently my movement expertise comes from degenerative conditions. So I realize, I look back, and I've been in the fitness industry for 42 years, in yoga as a certified yoga teacher for 21, a body mind practitioner for 20 years, and a student of martial arts for 24 years. And that includes Tai Chi, karate, and Jiu-Jitsu. I want to give you a little bit of a statistic. So the government of Canada, according to one of their surveys in 2020, that 25% of our population is 60 plus. And of those, 73%, and this is from a different study by the Canadian Community Health Survey, 73% of those over 60 have at least one chronic condition, whether that's more extreme like diabetes or cancer, and have ongoing treatment, osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoporosis, and so on. So you can imagine that there's a huge need for wellness and appropriate types of movement and exercise. When I realized that over the past couple of years, being home in the pandemic, I was starting to really degenerate more because I wasn't doing my usual activities out of the house. I started online classes and teaching first chair yoga and movement. And then now a number of people have progressed to the floor classes. So I also do floor online classes. My approach, though, is a four-pillar approach. I know some people talk about an approach, and I love that many of you are your own self-care experts, and you've found a way to find that balance. In my four-pillar approach, I think of those four pillars. You can think of the legs of a chair. So there's the body, there's the mind, there is the emotions, and the spirit. Those are the four pillars that I look at. And when we look at the four pillar approach, if you're someone who approaches self-care with a lot of exercise, then that leg of the chair gets quite long. Because in that space, you find that your exercise calms your mind and you can live in that space until something takes away that balance. So with our pandemic, one of the things that got taken away for some of those who were out at classes or depended on going to the gym, you couldn't do those regular exercises. And so how did you adapt or convert what you were doing to actually emulate and replace the physical exercise? However, some of us have had injuries. A few people have mentioned injuries that have just happened in the past year. And sometimes it's degenerative things, and mentioning things like eyes that are changing. And what if your knees don't allow you to walk? And so what a lot of people have done to get out, to be out of the house and get that sensory stimulation, that feeling of movement and exercise isn't available anymore. So I like to look at the approach of the four pillars as things that are more of a practice rather than just exercise. So to me, movement continues to be a practice. And because I have done things like yoga as well as Tai Chi, for example, those are much more of a practice approach that speaks to lifestyle and that helps to balance out those four pillars. So for body, there is a lot of mention. People understand we need physical exercise. For mind, we understand we need to stimulate our minds, but also to calm our minds, as well as then the spiritual aspect, whether we're spiritually dealing with faith or prayer. Spiritually, it's also about our connection and our connection in community and social. That is really important. And that, of course, has changed over the year. It's been a little different. And then finally, that last pillar, which is emotion. And I think one person mentioned that as a possible pillar, but it's not something we necessarily think about. And when we are injured or something has changed and it takes away let's say we depend on our walking as a strong pillar to shore us up and help us feel good, and suddenly you cannot walk. What the heck do you do? We start to feel, and this is where the emotions really start to get drained. We start to feel, and we start to feel things like frustration, right? Or isolation, because we cannot do things for our body the same way, and we also cannot do things the same way. So my approach really is about coming from wherever you are We adapt whatever injuries that you are facing. So for example, if it's a shoulder injury, there's going to be options for, if we're lifting our shoulders or our arms up here, you may have only this available to you. And there's always an option to do things mentally as though you're kinesthetically following a movement and not actually doing it, because we've lost that in the body. My website, I'm going to put in the chat after the talk, and I'll also send information to Marge so that if you want to try a class, you can come and try a class as my guest. So I want to tell you those things. Right now, I want to just get back to some movement. And this movement actually appeals to the idea of, what if you've lost your connection? What if you are still a little nervous or scared about going out in the community? We want to bring this into the body, this sense of trust, and we can start to invite that through grounding and through our feet. So we feel our feet on the floor as we did before. Feel your sitting bones on the chair. Let's take a breath in, raise our shoulders up to our ears, hold that breath, and then slowly release that breath. And once again, feel your sitting bones and feel your feet on the chair. Practicing this can help you get a little more sense of safety in the body, which can translate spiritually into your life. We take what we do and we practice because it's really a practice for our everyday life and our movement. So finally, I want to do one more movement, and you can't see my feet, but with my feet on the ground, I'm going to lift my heels up, and I want to invite you to lift your heels up and then place your heels down, and then lift your toes up, place your toes down, lift your heels up, place your heels down, lift your toes up, place your toes down. Now, as you lift your heels, think about lengthening, lifting up the spine. Eyes are looking into the horizon, breathing in, breathing out. Feet or heels come down, toes come up, and let's just round our back. That gives us a nice stretch in the spine. Breathing in, breathing out, toes down and heels up, lengthening up once more, maintaining this sense of lengthening as you place your heels down. Just feel those sitting bones once more. Finally, one of the things that does transcend through the four pillars is sound and sound healing, and a little plug as well to work with Joanna, who I've been working with through this whole pandemic. And sound healing, because of the vibrational and energetic aspect of it, can transcend through all of those pillars to shore you up. So we're going to do a breath to end. And at the end of the breath, we're going to open our mouth, release our tongue, and we're going to just do the sound, ha, like a sigh. So let's breathe in. Ha. And one more time, breathe in. Ha. And the sound ha is actually a healing sound for the heart. And one thing someone mentioned was watch a good comedy. I think it was Joanna as well. Watch a good comedy, because a comedy makes you laugh, ha, 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 ha. And a good belly laugh is really a good connection for your soul. So I hope to see you in class and join me for a 4-pillar approach to your movement, especially if you are having any struggles or difficulties.